Tutorial Podcast, a podcast offering discussions and tutorials on nerdy subjects for people who aren't necessarily nerdy themselves. With you today is your nerdy tutor, myself, George, and with me today, back from Japan, my mom.
Konnichiwa. Konbanwa.
Konbanwa. Yeah, we're back from Japan, so I apologize for having a break here, but we were intentioned to kind of record some podcasts while we were there.
We did record one.
We recorded one, but I think we do a better job if we just kind of summarized it here. So this week, I think we're going to talk about what we saw in Japan, all the stuff we have laid out, and what we did see, what we didn't see.
Okay.
And then next week, we're going to talk about some of the tips and tricks and our impressions about Japan.
Okay.
But not to say that some of that might not bleed into this.
Okay.
Alrighty. So we arrived in Osaka on day one and got our JR passes, and then traveled all the way down to, Osaka proper. And there's a lot of trains in Japan.
A lot of trains in Japan. First off, the rail passes, and we can talk about this next week when we talk about sort of the how-tos and what-tos and not-tos. But we were able to pick those up in the airport. Pretty quickly. Took us a bit to figure out how to use them, but we'll talk about that next week. But everything travels by train or bus.
And we were never in a car.
We were never in a car the whole trip.
Car, bus. I mean, we were in car, van. We were in buses occasionally,
we were in buses,
but
yeah.
Never in an actual car.
Yeah.
So, and not that we didn't see them running around constantly.
No taxis, no Ubers, no Lyft.
And we got around surprisingly well, I think.
Yeah.
So, we ended up staying in a ryokan. That first ryokan was really cool.
Yeah, and really well chosen. I think, it's the old adage, location.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of cool because, we walked, I want to say probably like 3/4 of a mile to get from the train.
The initial JR station.
And later on, we learned how to sort of manipulate that so that we could change trains and get closer.
Mm-hmm.
But we no more than hit the ryokan, dropped our luggage, and we're down on
Dōtonbori.
Yeah, which was one of the video blogs I'd seen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, every food sign under
Lots of Spider-Man.
Lots of Spider-Man.
We also saw giant crabs that moved.
Talking kabuki faces.
We actually saw a couple of the same restaurants pretty frequently, actually.
Yeah, there were repeats.
Yeah.
There were repeats. So it was this odd combination between, and we saw this a lot, a combination between street food and sit-down restaurants in the same location.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened was a lot of that stuff down the main fair down the main road was really more or less kind of like the bigger restaurants and stuff like that. But you would occasionally have a little itty bitty stall sort of thing.
You'd have a kiosk that was serving right out of a window.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then if you went off the street a little bit, and you got to some of the back alley stuff. That's where all the really good restaurants are, apparently.
Yeah. So you have to walk. You have to walk the length of that street
to really kind of get the impression.
Just to get the signs.
Mm-hmm.
There are giant dragons, crab, octopus, as you said, Spider-Man. There's it is, and a lot of them animated. Mm-hmm. So I mean, forget the eating. Just talk about
the things we saw again, just these cool animatronic sort of signs and moving around and everything.
Yeah, so I mean, really, that's what that street is about. I mean, we did double back the next night and get the very famous teppanyaki octopus balls. Yeah,
well, that was on day 3, but we'll get to that one here. And then we also decided to make a quick detour to Universal Studios.
That was a last-minute decision, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, what I found was kind of interesting, we saw a lot of students there, oddly enough.
Well, so we were there on a Thursday night, and there is a Twilight
Pass.
There's a Twilight Pass, and we got the Twilight Pass, and $62, so not
inexpensive.
Yeah, not hugely less expensive actually, because the regular pass is $88. So I mean a 25% discount. I guess a little bit more than that,
give or take.
Yeah. So, but as was noted in some of our reading materials, you can get through that place in 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 or 5 hours. Now, mind you, like, we didn't get to ride a whole lot of the rides because a lot of those rides were at least an hour and a half to 2 hour wait. And
right, and if you wanted to ride everything, you would need more time. But if you were, we did ride a couple rides, and we did a couple of the shows, and the shows were pretty fun.
I liked the Terminator one. I mean,
That
despite the fact that it was all in Japanese, like, the host woman was worth it for the most part, even if you didn't understand the entire bit. She's very animated.
Yeah, live person anime, but her facial expressions and her gestures,
body movements were just amazing. And then, like, and I had never done that Terminator ride before. I know they have it in Universal Studios Hollywood, but mind you, it's been 20 years since I've been to Universal Studios Hollywood, at least.
Well, and this was a combination between
live action
and 3D,
and kind of like a 4D experience almost.
Yeah. And as you said, it didn't matter that you didn't speak Japanese.
No, you got the initial impression. I mean, like, if you've seen a Terminator movie, like, you kind of know what's going on.
So for us, I think the trip with Universal Studios, which was a blast, but seriously, we were there for 3 hours,
maybe about 3 hours, give or take.
Yeah, and that was enough.
Yeah, I think for us the problem was that even though it was a Thursday, like, I think if we got there in the morning on a Thursday, we could have gotten a lot more stuff done in there, because I think a lot of the things that were happening was there was also a Halloween night as well. Because again, they do celebrate.
That was extra fun, though. Well, and it's a surprise to me because we found this actually all over the country. They celebrate Halloween. They decorate it for it and everything.
Yeah, they don't not take it seriously.
That was a trip. And there that meant that they had Creature from the Blue Lagoon and
Frankenstein, Medusas, werewolves, bat creatures.
Yeah, like, so they had people coming out in groups of 3.
With 3 was a popular.
Like one really featured character and 2 ghouls that hung with it that were themed the same way. And they had them coming out at intervals. And walking down the main street.
Oh, yeah.
And that actually is kind of fun. What I thought was kind of fun was, here we are, we're from San Jose, California, so we're just south of San Francisco, and we go into San Francisco quite a bit. And they had Fisherman's Wharf. And it was San Francisco Fisherman's Wharf with the exact same signs.
Yep.
That was a trip.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that looks familiar. That looks very familiar.
You're like, oh my God, it's Fisherman's Wharf. It's got the crab sign, everything.
We even saw, and again, even walking toward there, we saw a group playing, like, either like guitars or some sort of instruments. They were playing Queen music, if anything. They were playing the Queen songs, and I was like, holy shit, what the hell?
Well, we didn't stay for it, but there was a Queen stage show.
Yes.
So the interesting thing with Universal that I noticed was that the staff was Japanese, but the characters that were out and about, walking around, were not.
No, they looked like a lot of either locals or Americans, rather.
Or Europeans.
Or Europeans, yeah. I mean, we went into... Now, mind you, they've got, like... Universal Studios Hollywood has, like, a Harry Potter land. They had a Harry Potter land in Japan, too. And we go into, like, the wizarding wand shop.
Well, I mean, let's back up and talk about this. They have what's the name? Dagon Alley, and they have it nailed.
Oh yeah.
There's the sweet shop. There's all the shops that you see referenced, the bookshop, all the shops you see referenced in the stories and in the movies, and it is absolutely textbook perfect.
Now,
I mean,
and again, mind you,
it's
like,
a really good.
And if you didn't have any of the other, like, tourists there, you would just think it was a movie set almost.
You would. It was really well done. And what surprised me about that, I think, is that true of a lot of the places we went, we really didn't see very many foreigners. Most of the people we saw, even in the most unexpected places, were Japanese.
There was one exception to that.
Which was?
The restaurant. The robot restaurant.
Oh, the robot restaurant.
But we'll come to that.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
We'll come back to that, yeah.
Still an awesome experience.
Yeah.
And it didn't register to me, I don't know why, that a Japanese audience would have embraced Hogwarts. But there were all sorts of
teenagers
dressed.
And Harry Potter.
I mean, like to the nines, cape tie, the whole
haircut
thing.
And everything.
Yeah. As Harry Potter
characters. Or just in school uniforms.
Or just in the school uniforms as one of the members of one
of the different
Slytherin houses. And that fascinated me because I never made the connection that would be
something of interest there, or that they would have even picked up on that. Yeah. No, again, that was a real treat for me too. Again, like the last minute sort of decision, but wow, that was again like they nailed the aesthetic.
That.
Yeah.
So talk about the wand. We went into the wand shop to pick a wand.
And this guy again. I couldn't tell if he was a British guy or an American guy. I'm assuming he's British. He's probably been there for a long time because he's doing the entire bit here in both English and Japanese.
And he's clearly a wizard and dressed as a wizard and has a beard.
And he is going kind of back and forth between it frequently.
He's hopping between the two languages flawlessly.
Yeah, and he's just being him. You could not tell me that wasn't a wizard in a wizard shop.
Right.
Like
definitely not a muggle.
No, you'd be hard pressed to explain to me that wasn't. It was so good, and even again, and again, what triggered in me was like, oh, that's right. He's doing it in both English and Japanese, because I guess maybe he saw we were in the room, and we're like, oh, they probably speak English.
Well, we were the only non-Japanese people in the room, so hard to say.
It's kind of hard to say, if he just doesn't do that in general.
Yeah, I mean, it was his play acting routine was pretty.
He had like the cadence, and he knew exactly what he was doing, and he had just the right sort of like.
Well, and things popped out, and and as you tried to match, because he chose a random person for the audience and tried to match a wand to them, and different things, little
light fixtures or things kind of popped out randomly.
Yeah.
No, all of it was very
well done.
Oh yeah, no, again, it was very, very entertaining. It would not surprise me if they had something similar to that here in Disney, in the Hollywood version.
Well, and I think my only annoyance at Universal was exactly what happened on that particular thing. You know, we did a number of rides. We did the walk through Harry Potter's castle, which was awesome. I mean, it was Harry Potter's castle is really well done. Mm-hmm. And by that we mean the Hogwarts castle.
Oh yes.
But almost everything, I'm trying to think of anything we went to didn't end in a shopportunity. Everything in Universal dumped you into a store.
Yeah, but you can't not say that about Disney theme parks too. Like a lot. I mean, like my favorite ride in Disneyland to this day is still Star Tours, and it shoots you straight into Space Traders or Star Traders or whatever it is, and it's just it's a giant theme shop.
Yeah, and that's true. It just seems like that happened less at Disney Sea than it did at Universal.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a number of different lands. It was very Americanized, which surprised me. It really did, because it really, there were no Japanese sets on there. It
no,
was
nothing
all
that
American
was like
sets.
vaguely.
They had the Amityville from Jaws.
Yes. They had a Jurassic World sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they had like. They even have a Curious George there, oddly enough.
Curious George, and they had a lot of Sesame Street.
Yeah, a lot of like Snoopy, Sesame Street. Like, almost seemed like any franchise they could kind of like get their hands on that was not taken by Disney, and none of it Japanese either.
None of it Japanese.
No.
So can we talk about the headgear?
Oh yes, like they. So when we say headgear, like if you've ever been to Disneyland, you can get like Mickey ears, but they took these kind of ears to like a new extreme. Like we saw like dinosaurs biting down on people's heads, and minions, and different kind of eyes for Sesame Street characters. There
had to be, because just in the Sesame Street alone, I think I counted 16 different kinds of headbands.
Yeah,
and we're not talking just Cookie Monster and Elmo and Big Bird, and Zoe and Count Dracula.
Grover.
You had different versions of them.
Yep.
You had some that look almost Frida Kahlo-like, with dangly things coming off of them. And I want to say probably 70% of the people we saw were wearing some form of headgear.
Yeah. Like that was the thing you did when you went there.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and they were $20, and I considered actually buying myself a something. I wasn't not even sure what, but I didn't know when I'd ever wear it again.
Yeah,
that
would be the only thing.
I talked myself out of it, but you saw not just the headgear. You saw lots of groups of friends dressed in matching shirts and matching headgear.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of groups in 3, 4, 5, 6, all dressed in black and white polka dot shirts with Snoopy ears.
Yeah.
As an example. So lots. You're right. Lots of Peanuts. Lots of different characters. Lots of Minions. Lots of people in yellow shirts and overalls with the Minion hats on. Just a lot.
Yep.
Of headgear. I mean, I don't. It was surprising because when we go, I don't think we deck out like that.
No, I think Well, I mean,
and this became. I mean, I don't know if we'll have time for Disney Sea today, but we can, when we get to talk about that, we'll talk about just awesomely impressive boyfriends.
Oh yes. So moving on to day 2, we went to the Nara Park.
Can we talk about anything on a stick?
Oh yes, they have everything on a stick.
Everything on a stick. So we went to so you have a knack of picking out really nice alleyway restaurants, and I have to say, as a global thing, our best meals were in hole in the walls. Many of them without any tables, just a bar.
Yeah. Those were the best restaurants. And so I really, you get a chance to go into a ramen or a udon place with just a bar, it's probably going to be a really good meal. Oh yeah, no, the first night I think we had tonkatsu, and it was just mind you, drenched in Worcestershire sauce, but I don't mind that all the time. But it was just so good, and we were like, we didn't know what we were thinking when we got in there because it was very kind of darkly lit, and it's like there's some like knickknacks on the wall, but you're not sure whether those are just like been there for the last 30 years or something, and you walk in and you're just like, and like everybody was super nice. Everyone was amazingly nice at every single restaurant, despite the fact that we don't speak the language very well, if at all, and everyone was very like understanding, but just like the best food was in the restaurants that had no tables in it whatsoever. Best
food. And so the first night was basically a restaurant we entitled Anything on a Stick because everything came on a skewer. And everything included miniature corn cobs.
Wrapped in bacon. Peppers, lots of wrapped in bacon. But mind you, like when we say anything on a stick, like their menu of stuff for just chicken was like, oh, you could have chicken thigh or chicken leg or chicken heart or chicken liver or chicken
innards.
Yeah, and like it just like the same went with like pork, and they just kept going on and on. So it was very much they recycle as much of the animal as physically possible.
There's nothing that's not being used.
No. That's that first night. Yeah, it was basically anything on a stick. So
yeah,
but again, that wasn't not entertaining and good at the end of the day. Yeah,
you rounded off the first night with a trip to the Osan.
Yes, basically it's a public bath at the end of the day. But that was very nice, and because mind you, I think with the exception of our first hotel and then the hotel in Fuji, we never actually had a bathroom in the room. We were always either like shared public bathrooms down the hallway, or in this case, the bath was actually at the very bottom in the basement of the ryokan.
Yeah.
And no, that was a real treat because I got to go in there right as other Yakuza were coming out because they were just layered with tattoos, and it was like, oh, okay, well, I never thought I'd see this, but sure.
Well, and next week when we do this, we need to talk about rumors we heard that didn't pan out to be true.
Yes,
and that can be
almost an entire thing on its own, I think. Sometimes.
Yeah, because the whole tattoo thing,
We saw a lot of fair amount of people with that, but we'll get into that next time.
Yeah, we'll get into that next time. But so you had your first Osan experience.
Mm-hmm. And that was awesome. It was everything I thought it wanted it to be.
Yeah, so you used the public baths. And I think one of my disappointments in getting prepared for the trip is I couldn't really find anything in writing that explained what etiquette is for the bath. So next week we'll talk about
how you go to the bath, or how you take a bath.
How you take a bath, because there is an etiquette to it, and there's
almost a ritual as well.
There's a ritual, and I think it helps to understand it before you go.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the second day, Nara. Now we got off the train for Nara. It took us a little bit to get there, maybe about 30 minutes, which is not bad.
Not bad.
No, not bad at all. And then so we're walking along. Oh, this is the one kicker here. Every single day we were able to find like a Family Mart, 7-Eleven, something like that. I swear we could pick up like a 2-liter bottle of water for like $1.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing about the 7-Elevens is
they're very plentiful.
Only 2 of our hotels came with meal packages, and even with that said, one of them we left too early to really take advantage of it for a couple of the days. But the 7-Elevens there, and this was true when I toured Taiwan as well, are fully stocked. It's not like a 7-Eleven in the United States. They have full-on beautiful meals that you could heat in a microwave.
Or they'll heat for you.
Or they'll heat for you. They have a beautiful array of pastries and breakfast foods and yogurt. So most nights we ended the day before going back into the hotel by stopping at the 7-Eleven, and you couldn't shake a stick without hitting one.
No, you would actually...
They're everywhere.
You would hit like 3 or 4 in going through the stations.
Yeah.
Which will be something we talk about next week, I think, when we get to stations.
But most of our nights ended with running into a 7-Eleven, grabbing a yogurt.
Or grabbing something for breakfast.
And
then rolling out in the morning.
And then rolling out in the morning and just eating while we were getting dressed and going. Which worked really well. So the trip out to Nara was amazingly quick. I don't know why I expected it to take longer.
It seems like it would take longer because like it's basically the difference from where we are here in San Jose kind of up to San Francisco.
The trains are fast.
The trains are very fast.
The trains are fast, and look for the rapid
limited
line. Express.
Yeah, because they'll stop the stations.
Yeah.
So we got to Nara. Holy crap! Those shrines and temples and just the statues alone for me was well worth it.
Well, and here's my thing with Nara is as a friend of mine went with her children last year about this time, and I'd seen her pictures, and I think it was one of the first things I asked you about was could we go to Nara because the deer looked so cool. The deer are cool, actually kind of annoying after a while. But
the deer are plentiful.
And
then when you see them the first time, you're just like, wow, they do exist. There are deer here. There are here.
And they bow.
Keep going further in. Because we were just at like the very front. And if you keep going in, they're in there. And they are just like...
Well, we're taking dozens of pictures of the deer.
Thinking we're not seeing
anymore. It's the first shrine
we're
seeing, and they're everywhere.
Oh, my goodness. Like, they're even like perfectly sitting between other like... stuff that's just there, like lampposts and other stuff. Like they're just like
one of my favorite pictures.
Yeah,
I have a picture of a deer just poking out between lanterns. So one of the things that captivated me about Nara, and we spent the entire day, and we walked.
You can spend the entire day there, even if you just like go in and
it's
walk
not
around.
More than a day trip, though.
No, it's a single day trip. This is one of those times in which if you go to Osaka, just take a day to go to Nara.
Just take a train out. You don't need to stay there.
So worth it.
Yeah. But one of the things that I hadn't expected was to enjoy the inside of the building so much. So the annoyance is that there's a separate fee for like everything. You're going to pay 400 yen to go into this and 500 yen to go into this. Occasionally they'd be combined.
Yen. You're like, oh, hey, it's like $12 to do these 3 things.
Yeah.
But you know what? If we didn't pay it, they couldn't upkeep it, and at the same time, like for like what some of them were like 700, 800 yen, totally worth
it. I wish they would get smart and do like a a 3,000 yen pass. If I paid $30 in one shot and just been able to wave the pass, I'd have been happy. But we paid to go into everything, and we went into everything, and it was so worth it. Some of the most beautiful carvings I have ever seen.
They've got wood carving nailed down in Japan. They really do.
And we later saw other carvings and other things, but these were really exquisite and some of the most beautiful things we saw.
So we got to see the Golden Shrine Palace that was kind of there, and they were doing some sort of like photo show in front of it with some sort of
dignitaries,
which was really cool there too. And then we got to hike upward a little bit, and we saw also like the largest wooden building or something, I think, or the oldest wooden structure.
It's the largest wooden structure in the world, completely wooden structure. And the interesting thing is we really covered all the way around. So we did a full loop.
Yes.
Because there are just all sorts of temples everywhere.
And I imagine if we had gotten there earlier in the day, like we could have covered even more, maybe.
Oh, I don't think we missed anything.
I don't think we did either, but I think we could have seen more, because there was still like another like 2 or 3 museums that were kind of like buried in there too.
Oh, so. Yeah, that's true, because we were getting towards closing time.
Yeah.
So we saw so much though, and that was a day. Overall, on most days, we were walking 20,000 steps or more.
This day, I think we did at least 23, if not 24.
Yeah, and remember that we're both. I'm 5'10", you're 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", and so our steps are bigger than average steps as well. So we were going 10, 12 miles a day by foot. And didn't care, we'd do it all again. Oh,
absolutely. I think the only thing I will say about that is like bring very comfortable walking/running shoes.
Yeah.
We'll get onto this later in the myth portion here, because we were both kind of told like, oh, have shoes you can get on and off quickly because you'll go to a lot of places that'll be the case. Don't bother with that. Wear comfortable shoes. It's well worth it. Your feet will thank you much later in the end. And we didn't go to a lot of places that was the case, with the exception of some shrines here and there.
We went some places in everything but Osaka. We went places where you had to slip off your shoes.
Yes.
But as long as you're wearing socks, doesn't matter. And if it takes you a moment to bend over and tie your shoe, tough luck. I agree with you. Absolutely wear comfortable shoes.
And they have benches there for you to put your shoes back on, too. Yeah, no, again,
for the most part, yeah.
Wear anything that hugs your foot really well. It's one of the things I would take back. So
it's a lot of walking.
So Nara was a great day, and we had tonkatsu actually, we went to a little restaurant that was right around
the corner from the hotel.
And this is our first time we saw the kiosk. So we get in there and we're like, oh, and the waitress who's there,
she actually spoke some pretty good English.
She said she lived in like Los Angeles or something for a little bit.
And let's just say, as an overall guidance tool, not much English is spoken.
No, but you can kind of there's some ways to get around.
Yeah.
But so she pointed us to a kiosk that we had to put our order in from there.
And we paid up front, which was frequently true. You paid up front when you ordered in the kiosk. So you put your money in like a vending machine.
And then you would pick out what you want, and then when you were done, it would spit out the rest of your money.
And it spit out little tickets.
And you give the tickets to the waitress, and the waitress disappears, then comes back with food for you later.
Yeah.
And that was all good food there too. Yeah.
That was a cool meal.
Yeah.
We didn't have a bad meal.
No, I can't remember one bad meal.
Yeah.
With the exception of the octopus balls, but that was about it.
Okay. Well, yeah.
We'll get to that. We'll get that in a little bit. But no, so we had that, and then we went back to the Ryokan and kind of just again stopped off at a mini mart before that, and went back to the Ryokan and just kind of hung out for the night. And I think later on we watched volleyball. So
yeah. So the just quickly, our Ryokan was a very traditional Ryokan with the tatami floor.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an etiquette for slippers. They provide you with slippers, but there's an etiquette for slippers,
mm-hmm.
And special bathroom slippers, which are separate from your room slippers. And our ryokan had mats. And the first night we got there, the mats were all set up on the floor because I think we were so late by the time we came back.
Yeah, we didn't get back to almost 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, I think. But they'd also put our luggage in the room as well beforehand. Right. So it was waiting there for us, thankfully.
But the second night we got back a little bit earlier, and the table was set up for tea, and had little snacks. And then later on they came in.
And they redid the room again for us.
And they set up the room, so they pulled the mats back out of a closet and set them up. And what you get is a sheet and a comforter that is
tucked around the sheet.
Yeah, a comforter that almost has like an upside down fitted sheet on it.
I would just imagine it probably is just a fitted sheet.
Yeah.
Which would make sense, because again, if you get the fitted sheet, the sheet, and then that's normally what you get, and then the pillowcase is that would make sense.
Yeah, but it was probably a 2-inch thick mat on the floor that we were sleeping on, and that's what we had everywhere actually, except for the one hotel that we kind of stayed in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, every night was a pretty good sleep for the most part.
Well, we were tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So third day was our big Kishiwada day for me. That was, I think, day number 3 was the highlight of most of the trip here.
There's so many wonderful moments, but that is something I will never forget.
So this is the Kishiwada Danjiri Matsuri, and basically what it is that Kishiwada is not a small town, but it's not a big town.
It's sort of a suburb.
Yeah.
Of Osaka.
Yeah, and so different districts around Osaka sponsor these carts, and they usually have the councilman on it. And these carts, and about 24 other men on there as well, at least.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on those carts. And we should start out by saying the carts themselves, the dimensions of the carts, they're at least 12 feet high on their wheels.
At least 10 to 12 feet high. And then they're also about, what would you say, about
8 feet across?
8 feet long, and then maybe 3.5, maybe 4 feet wide.
They're bigger than 4 feet wide because they had... Well,
maybe I'm saying 4 feet, maybe 5 at generous.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And we had the opportunity, and if you ever go to see them, I would suggest you sort of make the opportunity to walk alongside one during sort of a break period at 1 o'clock, and look at it closely. We were told they weigh 4 tons, and it's easy to believe they weigh 4 tons.
Yeah, that's before I think the people being on them.
Before the people being on them. But to see how intricately carved they are, I took some pictures of them close up of one of them that was on the side of the road, and was going to start back up when they started back up, and it was just the carving was just stunningly beautiful.
Oh my goodness!
So these are huge carved, almost the size of a rail car. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, I mean, and now here's the most impressive part about this, and what they don't, and it's going to be kind of hard to explain without showing you video, which I'm going to try to have.
We'll have video posted. We took lots.
Yeah. So these things are being dragged and pulled by at least 200 to 300 some odd middle schoolers, teenagers, and I want to say elementary school kids are even in on it too.
They were as young as 6, and there were adults running alongside the younger ones,
or some older teenagers.
Yeah, or some older teenagers running alongside, sort of making sure that nobody fell and got trampled. And the whole thing is the way the course is laid out. If you look at the map, which we looked at afterwards, it's laid out for the maximum number of turns. There are 37 turns over what I measured out to be approximately 5 miles
at minimum. And mind you, they don't take these turns lightly. They
have to pick up speed because there's no steering wheel on these things.
No, and they are running through the streets in some cases with these carts. So
you can tell. You'll see a bunch of kids just sort of walking, holding the ropes, walking, and then all of a sudden they'll start picking up speed, and it means that the cart's about to come around the corner.
Yeah, and they're the whistling and the fan slapping, but again, it's really, really cool because all these kids are just covered in like some sort of woolen gear because it's
They've got the long white pants and the happy jacket and something, and all the girls' hair was closely braided, and they all had these headbands on in different colors.
You probably kind of denoting their district.
Yeah. And so you'd watch, they sort of tiered up because it was the younger kids in front, and then the kids got older and older and older.
Usually, and sometimes I think it was like there's like a senior or junior high school kids at the very front, kind of like, because it's a big rope that's kind of like a circular sort of thing.
Yeah, one kid's in the loop.
One kid's kind of in the loop, kind of pulling it, and like all these other like littler kids, and even some.
Well, there's 4 ropes total, so there's the loop.
There's 2 ropes.
Only 2?
There's only 2.
Oh, I thought I was seeing 4. Okay.
If you saw the smaller ropes, though, those were being held by very young elementary school kids, like the ones like 6, 7, 8 years old that couldn't actually keep up with the rest of the cart. They're kind of like walking alongside the other, I think, elementary school kids. That's what
I must have been thinking.
Yeah.
So there's all those kids, and then the adults are behind it, acting as the rudder, and they've got the cart has sort of a tail.
Yeah, it's got
that has like 8 ropes coming off of it, 4 on each side, and all the big guys. I mean, these are adults, these are parents, these are
college age kids, something like they've all been doing this for a while, and
they're yanking the back of the cart to get it back in line. So to watch these things, because we watched it from inside,
kind of a covered market,
right? And the covered markets are very common there because these would be streets with shops on either side where they've put quite high up, like 3 stories up,
kind of a curved sort of
plexiglass curved ceiling, and a very common thing because it rains a lot in Japan.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, well, we'll get out of the sun.
Oh yeah, no, I think
and we'll watch inside there, which was ideal.
Oh my goodness,
that is where you want to be.
Yeah, because they all came down that way in the beginning, and they were there, and like there was never like 5-10 minutes where like we weren't seeing something come by. You might have like a 10-minute break in which you saw something, but you always saw something coming around.
Yeah, so they were coming on a pretty regular basis, and the fun thing was they were coming from multiple side streets into there. So like you're like trying to figure out, okay, so which corner is it going around? Oh, it's going around that corner. And to watch them around the corner, I am so amazed that none of them flipped over on their side.
Now, mind you, the other thing we got to say here is that even when they're turning the corner, even when they're not turning the corner, there's a guy at the top of the roof of this thing, like, dancing around, waving the fans like he's swimming almost.
He's actually giving directions, but he's like the best, your best Freddie Mercury impersonator is up there on top, just dancing and jumping around. He is actually giving directions to the pullers out front and the guys in the back as to where the cart needs to go. But he is out there.
And mind you, and again, when they turn the corners, they're going at like full speed turning the corner.
And he's not holding on to anything.
No, he's just got his feet on there, and he's on there, and it's just like he's surfing the cart almost. And like he gets on, and like they turn the corner, and like if they turn the corner great, he's flapping and swinging his arms, going nuts. If they don't turn the corner quite right, he's giving directions on what to do so that they can turn it properly. Like, but holy smokes, that guy's amazing.
But we saw some of these as they came around the corner really wagging. I mean, they would go far right and have to be corrected left. There were times when we were having to back up because they were like too far over and we were going to get mowed down. It was absolutely incredible. And they continue then outside of that area back out on the route outside.
And then the one thing I want to add to this entire thing, we started the morning, it was still like 78 degrees. By the time they were starting this up at like 9 a.m., it jumped up to like 83, 84, maybe 85 degrees. By the time we left Kishiwada, it's got to be at least 90 degrees, if not getting close to 95. And they go from like 9 a.m. in the morning to like 5 o'clock in the evening.
And then they take an hour off while they light all the lanterns, and then they go back out, but I understand at slower speed. We didn't stay for that.
No.
But they go back out lit at night and go from 6 to 8.
Oh, yeah. So they're going all day long.
It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing to see. We walked around sort of between.
Yes.
And so a couple things. One of the things we found is right by the other side of the train station, because we left the train station and went
Like just basically straight
west.
ahead.
Yeah, we went west. If we had gone east on the other side, there's a tourist information center.
Yeah,
for that.
so I think if we had gone like southish,
Yeah.
there was a foreigners visitor center. They got a kick out of us.
Yeah, and they were so well set up, and they have it set up in there. First of all, they have people who speak English who will explain everything to you.
I think they have a couple different languages in there.
Yeah. And because I heard somebody speaking Dutch, which surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they have happies that you can try on, and they'll
big,
give you fans. And they will pose you,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll take pictures for you, which was really very sweet. But they had a really nice brochure, and which they gave us.
Which helped out a lot because we were kind of a little. Because again, I looked this up online, and while I didn't plan the entire vacation around this, it was like, okay, what's happening, festival or cool things happening, and they were like this, and I was like, great, can you explain it? And every website was like,
it's kart racing.
It's kart racing, but none of the websites really describe it. You have to watch videos of this to really kind of get the full breadth of what's really happening here.
Yeah, because I looked for information on it as well, and nothing. I didn't even find videos of it.
I found some videos, but
Did
they were
you?
like very cut up.
Okay.
Like just like real like highlight sort of bits. Like, oh my goodness, turning like look at all these kids running, and then like, oh look, a cart coming down the road, and like it's again, you'll see the videos that we post. Hopefully they'll explain it a little bit more.
Well, you know, when each of us asked the other what was your top 5, that was number 1 for both of us.
Oh, you know, absolutely.
It was so cool.
I explain it at work now, and people are just like, what?
Oh,
and then
I show
people the video, and they're like, oh, wow. But that's not the only thing we did in Kishiwada. We went to the Kishiwada Castle.
Which was a very nice castle.
Lots of big moats, and we've later learned that this place was a lot bigger with a lot more moats originally.
Yeah. And as were all the castles we went to, it's interesting. They've all sort of downsized over time.
But moat's not a non-effective tool to get around stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to protect a castle, apparently build a moat.
Build them up.
I'm getting a house, and when I get my house, I'm going to build a moat.
Well, so it was nice. It was nice to take a break from watching all the carts. We watched carts for like 4 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and then went and had lunch, and then went up to the castle.
Yep.
And then went through a very nice sort of family festival sort of thing.
Random fruit vendor on a stick.
Yeah, that was good.
Like best piece of fruit I've had in a long time. Like really ripe, beautiful fruit. And again, it was like kind of this interesting kind of festival thing. But they had like all like this traditional stuff you see there for like masks and balloons and other stuff. And a couple people are selling like full on like Nintendo Switches and PS4s and games and whatnot. And we were just like, okay, sure. Tell me more about why you're selling a game console in the middle of this
festival. Well, and they had sort of their version of what I would consider carnival games. Yeah,
they had their own carnival games, and they had, and again, a lot of them were just doing food there as well.
Lots of goldfish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, lots of food. So it was a very sweet sort of thing.
It was an awesome day.
And then we watched some more of the festivals come down the actual open streets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, like I really do think if you got a prime spot, like find a way to get like a small folding chair if you can find one.
Yeah, it's a long day.
It's a long day, so if you get like one of those like little kind of like campfire stools, like perfect thing to sit down on for a little bit. Like, so we saw Kishiwada Castle, and then we took a detour. We went to Osaka Castle.
Yeah.
Really cool grounds. Like this place is big.
Yeah. We saw several castles, and I actually enjoyed them all.
Mm-hmm.
Osaka was really nicely laid out because you have the option, take the stairs. It's really tempting to take the elevator up, and you wait in line for the elevator.
Oh yeah, but keep in mind, now mind you, these castles are rebuilt.
Yes.
They're not the original castles, and they're made with more modern materials. From the outside, they look like the original Japanese castles would. But you go inside, and they've got AC, they've got modern floors, and some cases elevators.
And they're not what we think of as castles. These are
basically giant turret towers.
Well, they are, but they're more pagoda-like. I don't know how to describe them. They're done in tiers.
Pagoda, yeah.
They're done in tiers, and part of the reason why they've had to be rebuilt is because the Japanese did not use stone except for retaining walls.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of stuff catches on fire. You want to take something down, you light it on fire.
Yeah. So it's true of a lot of the temples, and a lot of the structures are rebuilt because they were wood frame, and they at some point caught on fire. So they are rebuilt. But here's my thing with Osaka Castle. It's really tempting. By the time we got to Osaka Castle, it's like 100 degrees out.
And at least 90, 95.
Because that was on Sunday. Was that on the day we went to Nara? Or
that was on Saturday.
Was it on Saturday?
That was a Saturday.
After Kishiwada? Okay.
Yeah, Kishiwada, that was all
on
the Saturdays.
Oh, that's right, because we got off. Okay, I do recall.
So it was
late in the afternoon.
It's later in the afternoon.
It was like 4 o'clock.
Like 3 o'clock by the 2:30 by the time we got there. 3 o'clock by the time we got to the castle, because it's a long walk to get there.
It's a long walk, yeah.
But no, yeah, it's a
neat park though.
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, there was another
beautiful park.
Oh, beautiful, absolutely. But no, yeah, no. Again, it was a long hike to get up there if we really wanted to.
Yeah. So you hike, because all of these castles are placed high, where you're having to walk up a hill to get to them.
Mm-hmm. Crossing several bridges and moats.
Yeah. And so by the time you get to them, and you've gone up the stairs, because you've crossed the moat, and then you've gone up the stairs to go up to the castle itself, it's really tempted to say, okay, there's the line for the elevator. I could probably get into the elevator in 5-10 minutes. Why don't I do that? And we didn't do that, and I was so glad we didn't, because on each floor as you went up, and it was 8 floors.
Mm-hmm. They had different little dioramas and stuff going on.
Yes, they had different dioramas. They had different screens on display. One of the floors was just an animation stations of the screen that had been on the previous floor.
There's some historical artifacts in there as well.
Yeah, and so I thought the Osaka Castle had the most beautiful, some of the most beautiful displays we saw the whole time, on the whole trip, and great explanations, and some samurai costumes that were, I think there's the first set of samurai costumes we'd seen.
Yeah, people dressed in samurai armor.
Yeah. And so
it was very it was a
worth,
great castle.
It was well worth taking the stairs. I'm so glad we took the stairs. And I think
even when you got to the very top, like, the views were just stunning.
The views were stunning.
I do think, though, if you do Osaka Castle, go earlier in the morning to try to avoid some of the people, because people who were up there were just like, it's not a large area to walk through.
Yeah.
And there's even like a kiosk up there to sell stuff up there.
Yeah. And the staircase is fairly narrow as well.
Yeah, but that was true of a lot of the staircases we went to.
Yeah,
so.
That is true.
So yeah, and then our last night we had the tonkatsu, and we had the octopus balls, which, okay, the only thing I will say about these octopus balls, I thought they would be a little bit more cooked, because they were very gooey in the middle, and if they hadn't been quite so gooey in the middle, I think I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, I didn't.
It was like lava in the middle.
Yeah, so not my thing either, and it wasn't you're right, it wasn't the octopus that was bothering me.
Although the one thing that was amazing on there, shrimp flakes.
Yeah, the shrimp flakes. So we saw shrimp. Yeah, we saw shrimp flakes a couple of times, and because they're cut so thin, the heat, like they dance. Mm-hmm. That was cool.
It almost looks like it's still moving, and you're just like, should I? Okay. So day 4, we moved out of Osaka. We went to Kyoto, and again, not a very long train ride. I think maybe 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah, again, I was expecting it to be longer, and we were there.
So we found we found lockers that we could drop our stuff in at the Kyoto terminal, dropped our luggage there, and then immediately went to Fushimi Inari Shrine, which is the fox shrine, with all the billion torii gates on it.
And that is one of those things where I'm not sure if I were to do the trip again, would I plan that slightly differently and do that on the second day so that you got there.
I think that's one of those ones in which if we had done
first thing in the morning.
Yeah, if we had done
early
it,
in the morning.
I think if we had done it on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday or even on a Monday, we wouldn't have had quite so many people there, but there was a lot of people there.
It was a Sunday, and there were just a ton of people. But this is a good point to talk about how many people you see in the traditional Japanese dress.
Yeah, a lot of rented yukatas and kimonos in later dates. So a lot of people were in, like, especially on the weekends, were in traditional Japanese clothing, and they were just
Men and women.
couples,
and
a lot of couples. And I think, and I know one of the couples when we were in Fushimi Inari were taking like boyfriend girlfriend photos, like fiance,
like engagement photos, maybe.
Yeah, and they were just, and I thought that was really cool. But again, the people are just kind of walking around, and again, like, there's a lot of dirt on there as well. There's a lot of ways to get your stuff dirty if you trip and fall, but very bright colors and everything. Like, it was just very cool.
So Fushimi Inari is there's I looked it up, 112 of the orange gates.
Yes.
And you just keep going up, and all. And it might be tempting again because it was hot, to go through, because there are some breaks in them. To go through to one of the the first shrine or even the second shrine and say, okay, enough. Go to the top. There's a lake. There's a reservoir at the top. And there are, how many shrines? There's got to be a couple hundred shrines up there.
Yeah, little family shrines,
all
too.
different sizes.
And they all have foxes on them.
And they all have foxes on them.
Well, again, it's the fox shrine.
It is, but I mean, because there is a point where you say, okay, I've seen 500 Torii gates. I think I'm done.
Yeah.
And we didn't do that. We kept going, and there was a payoff to keep going because. Some of my favorite pictures are some of the ones we took up on top of all those little shrines.
Very candid, very quiet, very subdued.
Serene.
Very serene.
Especially given, because we were there. Yeah, we were there on a very busy Sunday, and there were thousands.
This is one of the places I thought I saw a lot more foreigners at than I was expecting. There was a lot more foreigners here than I was suspecting entirely at all.
Yeah.
But no, definitely keep hiking up. It's well worth it. Again, comfortable shoes are definitely a must.
Yeah.
Then, while we were also in Kyoto, we also did the Kyoto Railway Museum. Now, obviously, again, trains are a really big deal in Japan. We think of trains here as like, oh yeah, that old kind of antiquated sort of way you can get back and forth. You had to go back and forth. And I think unless you're really in kind of like a bigger city like Chicago or New York or places that have a lot of light rail or subways, like, you don't, like, at least here in California, like, there's a light rail here in San Jose, there's a light rail in San Francisco.
There's Amtrak.
Yeah, but that's about it, and there's not a lot of railway.
Yeah.
No, railway's a big thing in Japan, and this museum just was like antithesis of it. Like, these things, this was a really cool museum at the end of the day, just the history of trains, because again, you got to remember that back in like the 1890s, when the Americans came to Japan and said you have to open up the borders, the emperor at the time realized that how far they were behind, and it only took them about 2 years to start getting like trains in Japan that were moving people along really quickly, and they just built this entire network of trains everywhere. We were almost very surprised when we would walk for a little bit and be like, have you seen a train in a while? Like, no. This is weird. There's no trains anywhere. And they seem like they're just everywhere.
Well, and the train museum, I mean, it for children, just...
Oh, it's
totally set up.
Yeah, everything's got a tactile feel to it. I really love that they even have a modern day sort of thing where you can buy a ticket and go through the gates.
Yeah.
Children have
you buy a fake ticket.
You buy a fake ticket and then you go through the gates, or you load up like a fake IC card and then you go through the gates. And I find it somewhat hilarious, but like, hey, if you're like 5, 6, 7 years old, that's got to be like a real cool bit for you at the end of the day.
Well, and they had a dining car set up where you could take your kids in for lunch on the train. It was set up so cool. So you had the main building, which was enormous, and had full size Shinkansens in it, with several cars on them. I mean, it must have had 10, 12 engines in there, more than that.
Well, that was just the walk up to it. Then you went into the actual thing, and then you had the front cars, the main drive powerhouses of these trains. But then you had like several other cars, like 3 or 4, maybe 5 cars behind it, and then that's not even before you saw the other trains that were in there. That were like perpendicular to these other trains, and all of which you can walk through. And
the displays were really nicely done. It's very interactive because I think it is really created for children, or for parents to share with children. But it's very much as an adult a museum you can enjoy.
Oh,
there's a whole thing on the development of the Shinkansen, which is the bullet train that goes 260 miles an hour. There were things showing how motors work that you could activate and do different things with.
How the tracks were kind of meant to be laid out, what tracks were designed for these kind of trains versus this kind of train. Like, it's an excellent museum for parents and children.
And then you can go upstairs and over and go to something that looks like Thomas the Steam Engine's train yard with the turnstile. And
a lot of these old
engines. And another dozen trains.
All of which you can kind of get like right up and close and touch. Like, you can't obviously climb on them or get up onto them, but like
the other ones you can, though. The ones that are inside the main building.
Oh yeah, you can
were
go
totally
right
done so that you could go in and go into the engine room and stand there and pretend to drive it.
Now, they don't have this analogy for other places, but it reminded me a lot of the Discovery Museum here in San Jose.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of the cool exhibits that you have a lot of hands-on and can walk into and pretend like you're playing on them in a lot of cases. But that was very much the case here with these here in this place. So
there was even a large room that was there were actually 2 large rooms that were simulation rooms. One of them was a simulation of the master controls for a train yard, where you were the master of the train station, not the train.
And actually, on our trip to Kyoto, we actually were in the very front car. We were actually watching the people at the front of the car drive the train.
Yeah.
Doing all the pointing and everything. That was amazing.
And watching it accelerate, which was fun.
Oh, yeah, no, again, we were probably going at least, like 150, 160 kilometers on that Kyoto train the entire time?
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Again, the Kyoto Railway Museum was really amazing. For me, though, the Kyoto Manga Museum was just, like, it... Now, it's hard to kind of imagine this, but if you've ever been to, like, a Borders bookstore, you've seen just people just kind of lounging about reading books, just kind of, like, willy-nilly. That was this entire place. This museum has probably the largest collection of manga I've ever seen in a library before, because it's actually the building we used to be a schoolhouse. It's a renovated schoolhouse. They've obviously added to it, but they have like the principal's room and like a couple other rooms that are kind of decorated as the school would have been.
Yeah.
But they probably have like every known manga and volume of that for like millions of Japanese series. And they even have like a section that, so it's like, manga around the world. Like, here's stuff in English, here's stuff in Portuguese and Italian and Spanish. Like,
can we talk about what it was like to walk up to it? Because as you walk up to it,
there's a cafe to the right.
There's a cafe, and there's a huge courtyard
that's just got people just lounging about.
Littered with people reading, laying out,
and they've got a small stack of books with them, and they're just kind of like, it
was the coolest thing. And then we went into the cafe, and along the walls of the cafe, all these visiting artists have drawn their character and signed it and dated it on the walls. It was just
really
amazing.
Cool because I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, I've read that one. Oh, that guy looks very familiar. Oh, I know that guy. Oh, I totally know who that one is. Like, and they're all just with like a Sharpie just like drawn on there. Yeah. Some are really high up, so obviously you had to get like a ladder, but clearly like these artists came in and just made their mark on the cafe. And then you also go into the museum, this museum itself, which I really want to say it's more like a library, but it's actually it's very much a museum.
Yeah, there are exhibits like a museum, but it also, I would agree with you, is a library.
Like there's one part here where you were noticing that So they have like a geisha, a girl that's like a traditional Japanese like outfit, and different artists had done their own interpretations of it. So some of them were like more pretty, some were a little more realistic, some were very, you know.
There were a couple hundred of them, all the same size and framed the same way, but done by different artists, and it was really interesting to see what different artists did with the same subject.
Yeah. And then well, later on there was actually a little bit where apparently they had cast these people's hands holding a pen, and like they had these little statues of everyone's hands from these different artists, and you might have a picture next to it, or it would always be signed. It would say who it was. That was really cool too. Cause, like,
the little Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and then they even had like some window displays that kind of like showed you like it was in English as well. Thankfully,
yeah.
It was kind of like, oh yeah, here's how this happens, and here's a little bit more information about this. And it wasn't just about the stories; it's a lot about the industry as well.
There's a lot of things about you know, like how much does the actual anime artist make or the manga artist make, and that was an interesting display because it talked about who all gets a cut, what does the printer get, what does the marketing, and it was really interesting. And then there was another one that said, does the artist make a difference? And they showed the same storyline told, drawn by 4 or 5 different artists, and it was interesting to see how that changed your perception of it.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing was whether any place you could sit
was taken.
And that included staircases. Were littered with people reading.
There was a children's room.
But everybody was sitting reading, and it was the most...
it was like a very, very active library at the end of the day. It, very much in the same vein of like walking into like a Barnes & Noble, but not having a single person saying a single word.
But and times 10 in terms of people in it.
Oh yeah.
Because literally it had a lot of soft furniture in it, but leaned up against walls, sitting on the floor. People everywhere sitting there reading, and it's such a cool experience to see so many people enjoying.
And I think a lot of that was also, mind you, it was also a Sunday, so it was obviously like a lot of people's days off. But it wouldn't surprise me if somebody said, like, hey, you want to go to the manga museum? It's like, yeah. And just make a day out of just sitting, you know, like just get there early in the morning at like
and just
10
binge
o'clock
read
and
something.
Just binge read until it closes in the evening. That wouldn't surprise me. And again, at like it was like maybe like $7-8 to get in.
Yeah, it wasn't
totally
much.
worth it.
Yeah. Oh no, I had a blast.
This was also the first time we went to a Pokemon store as well.
The Pokemon Center. Okay, so we have some Pokemon aficionados, and you come from sort of that generation.
I do. I got one for myself even.
Okay, so and we actually went with people who had given us orders.
Yes, there were requests.
There were requests for different Pokemon. So the Pokemon Center in Kyoto, actually, because we were getting ready to take another bus, and we saw people walking
with bags that said Pokemon store on it, and then I looked up my phone real quickly. It's like, oh, there's a Pokemon store. It's maybe a kilometer's walk.
Yeah, so we knew it had to be close because we were watching people walk with bags. And so we get in there, and of course, the first thing you're greeted by is Pikachu in a kimono. The
Pikachu
statue.
in a kimono with an umbrella.
With an umbrella,
that's
which is a Pokeball. And this was a hard plastic statue, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So then we go around a corner, and there they are for sale.
Yep, there's that exact one too. There's another one on the kind of like a little like pillow, like bowing, and there's a couple others ones there too. And there's Pokemon that are just specific to that store.
So we made a point actually after we figured it out of only buying things that were available in the stores that we were shopping in, and things that weren't available outside of Japan. So everything we bought was either Japan only or Kyoto only or Tokyo only.
Yep.
Which was pretty cool. So we bought the kimono Pikachus. Big hit.
Oh yes, big hit.
Big hit. So we bought several of them,
Mm-hmm.
and then went shopping. And what we found as we were trying to fill out people's lists was
Mm-hmm.
that this particular Pokemon Center is sold only
Generation 1 and 2. The other Pokemon store also sold Generation 1 and 2 only, mostly.
But it had some other
But
ones.
it had some other ones that are kind of unique to that one. Like, all of them had all the starter sets.
Yeah.
But, like, this one also had just ones that were just specific to that Pokemon store. Like, I never saw the Pokeballs ever again. These
That's true.
big, puffy Pokemon balls, and, like, a couple other guys I never saw ever again either. So, like, there's different territories that have different stuff
things,
in it.
yeah.
So
And plus they have a giveaway if you spend over a certain dollar amount. I had no problem getting to the dollar amount.
no, yeah, they gave you like a special kind of like picture box or something, or some sort of
Yeah,
like
well, and there were
postcard.
different, and then also in the bag were some Pokemon cards.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
those too.
Yeah,
It was that was a fun treat.
that was a fun treat.
And then we got to our Ryokan, which was not bizarre, not the way I would describe it, but not the best Ryokan we stayed at the entire time.
Yeah,
it was
this
very much
was
worth
my-
the money that we paid for it.
Yeah, so this was my least favorite. He wasn't expecting us. We'd already
We already booked the reservation,
reservation.
and I had already paid a deposit. I had to pay the remaining balance of it, but he wasn't expecting us. And I think we've learned this later on that, like, our credit cards were and our credit cards were perfectly fine. Our debit cards were perfectly fine because we had a problem later on that last day in Tokyo.
Yeah.
But, like, again, they do not believe in credit cards.
They don't believe in credit cards, and a lot of times when I was purchasing things, they did add a 3% fee for using a credit card.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, very much a money or
A cash based society.
Be prepared to bring like 200,000 yen with you. I think would be the
Yeah,
case.
I and this is a tip we can talk about next week, but I know I bank with Bank of America, and I was able to order the currency online from Bank of America, and I ordered $2,500, and I came back with $2,500 worth,
Mm-hmm.
and I came back with $200 by the time we were done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, not our favorite Ryokan, but a nice, decent location and
Great location.
Getting it's just balls hot every day.
Yeah, and part of the problem was he wouldn't air out, and so we had air conditioning in our room, but he wouldn't air out the second floor, and so the minute you left our room, it was kind of like leaving a casino in Vegas. The heat
great
just
example.
hit you
Great example.
as you came out.
All right, so day 5.
Mm-hmm.
So day 5 for us was the hop on and hop off us, but before that we went to the Gion district, which is kind of the Geisha district. We saw some temples that were kind of in there. We saw like this massive, like 4 or 5 story tall Buddha.
Yeah.
A couple
Some
other
nice
temples.
shrines.
We went to your Starbucks.
So we went to the Starbucks. So there's a very nice walking district that is really very
It was worth it to walk it, if
Yeah.
anything else. It was just a beautiful sort of thing. And again, it was just like right over the bridge from where we were staying at. Like we were literally like we could have
walked
taken a
the whole
bus.
time. We didn't. Yeah.
We could have taken a bus,
We
but
walked.
it was much easier to just walk.
Yeah, so it was a very sweet area that was 200 and 300-year-old wooden buildings
Mhm.
that had been preserved, and one of them, Starbucks, has taken over, and you will not find a green and white sign out front. You have to look for it.
It's a wooden sign.
It's a wooden sign, very carefully done.
Even the lantern's actually got the mermaid on it
The
too.
lantern's got the mermaid.
And again, you wouldn't think what it is when you first see it, because it's just like, oh, that's just a building that looks a little bit more modern. No, like it's a legit Starbucks.
It's a legit Starbucks, but they've kept all of the right down to the sliding doors to get in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And you order your drink in the front room, and then you go to a back room to pick it up that has a little Japanese garden attached to it.
And then you go upstairs to drink.
And then you go upstairs. And upstairs is got tatami floors and
Mhm.
mats. There are some sofas and some seating areas, but it's mostly this sort of soft seating, low table, traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've managed to keep this building, keep the integrity of the building, and have it
Absolutely.
fit into the neighborhood. They did it right. It's well
Absolutely.
done.
Very beautiful. location.
Yeah.
So then we traveled back to the Kyoto station because we were never that far away from the Kyoto station. Probably was at least like one train stop away from the Kyoto station at any given time. But we were able to get onto the hop on and hop off bus.
My biggest regret.
We would not recommend that if you have the chance to. Just take a normal bus.
Just don't. There are enough, looking at the bus route between the various buses, we could have done what we wanted to do on the buses. And the problem with the on and off bus was we got there about 12:30. We got on a bus that started at 1. And the on and off bus only picks up at the stops every half hour. And a lot of the things you want to see are 4, 5, 6 minute walk from where they drop you.
And every one of the places is about maybe a 25, 30 minute sort of thing. And then so then you walk back like 5 minutes back to the bus stop, and now you're waiting 20 minutes for the next one.
Yeah, it was too long a wait in between. We lost so much time. They only run in one direction. Mm-hmm. And what they didn't tell us was that Kyoto Palace...
The Kyoto Imperial Palace was closing early that day. And we didn't
Well, no, actually, I looked it up. So it always stops allowing entrance at 10 to 4 and closes at 4:30. Mm-hmm. And so we weren't going to get there until 4 o'clock. So we did. So we saw several temples, and I really did enjoy the temples that we saw.
Oh no, I enjoyed those temples
there was
too.
One was a cows.
So that would have been the Kitano-TenmangushrineKinkaku-ji Shrine, and then we also saw the Golden Pavilion.
And the Golden Pavilion was really nice.
A lot of people at the Golden Pavilion.
Yeah.
On a Monday too, of all things.
Yeah.
So. And then we also went...
But again, that was like a 7-8 minute walk from that station.
Yeah, and then you were there for maybe 20 minutes, and then you walked another like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes back down there, and you were just waiting for nothing.
You were just sitting at this bus stop.
And mind you, now, if the buses came by every like
20
minutes, like it'd be much more reasonable. Like
then it would work.
Yeah, but every half hour was...
It just didn't.
No. And then we also went to this really cool shrine, the Imamiya-Jinja shrine, which was where the emperor, like several decades before this, the emperor gave up his rights as the emperor, gave it to his brother, but then he became a priest.
Yeah,
he became a monk, and then so it's always been this case where like one of the sons of the emperor's family. The emperor, the next one in line will become the emperor. The other son will go become a priest at the shrine.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. We got to see them chanting at one point, and they were
really
doing
beautiful.
their rounds for there.
Yeah, and I would have hated to miss any of those things to get to Kyoto Palace.
Yeah, like again, like if
I would have felt like I missed something.
Had we known, we would have done that sooner, and I think that would have been more impactful for us. Yeah. So that was day 5. Day 6, we went to the bamboo forest.
And that's where, so if I were going to switch anything, what I would do is switch that and do that on day 1. Okay. And do Fushimi Inari
another day.
On that day, so that you could go early in the morning. Mm-hmm. But I love the bamboo forest. And maybe it had so many fewer people, but maybe because it was a weekday.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we went to the... and then while we were there, we went to TempleToei Temple, which is a World Heritage Site. Yeah. Oh my goodness! Look at the beautiful scenery there. Was just like
the garden with the koi pond and and the screens
and the views.
Yeah, that was gorgeous.
Oh my goodness! So many.
That was so pretty. And the nice thing about it was, as we were walking to the bamboo forest, you had the feeling like you were walking
towards something. You weren't sure what.
But. You weren't sure what, but I felt like we were walking through a small village. It felt like it was a bit apart from
the
Kyoto.
Rest. Yeah. Like we weren't quite in Kyoto anymore. We had been somehow transported somewhere else. That entire area was very much more subdued and very much more relaxed.
It felt like its own little village and like you were in a small town.
Oh yeah. So we walked around Tenryuji Temple, and then we went to the Toei Studio Park. that was now I had seen a blog on this and was like convinced that like, yeah, we should go see this. It's a legitimate filming studio where they film a lot of Toei properties at, some movies, samurai shows, the Power Rangers, my Kamen Rider, which I love me some Kamen Rider. And again, Toei's got an animation studio there as well that still does a lot of animation, and they had like an animation gallery there.
So and to just, it felt like you were on a backlot basically.
It really was.
And they had and they explained it to us when we took the tour. They provided an interpreter for the tour because again we were the only non-Japanese people.
Well, thank goodness we found her.
Yeah,
or she found us.
Well, yeah. So they provided a translator, but basically what they have is sort of like the Old West studios of Universal Studios. It reminded me of the Universal Studio tours I took in the 60s.
Yes.
And they were explaining that they just change out the signs, and they right now it was covered with dirt and rocks, but there was actually asphalt underneath.
And they could switch that out.
And they could switch it out.
Rocks or something else.
Yeah.
Depending on the era of Japan they were trying to film or the streets they were trying to show. Like if it was more like a lower class street or an upper class street, there's a bridge that's just got the one side to the bridge.
Yeah.
And that's and then they've got like the other half of the bridge kind of midway through, but like the bridge is meant to kind of be like every bridge you've ever seen, and they just film it differently from different sides.
And they were explaining that it was fascinating. So it was very much like being on a back lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you walked into the various pavilions. So one of the pavilions was basically just a celebration of directors and
actors and famous actors. And
they had the person who did all the special effects for Godzilla.
They had the director for Godzilla there too.
Yeah.
And a couple other movies there too. So that was like really cool. And then they also had a wing that was just for like female actresses as well. So it was not like heavily dominated by males at all. And they even had like a cool little They also had kind of like a little diorama where they were like highlighting, when this was happening in the West, this is what we were doing at the same time. So you could kind of see the timeline of like, we shot this, they shot that. This is when Godzilla came out. This is when this movie came out. Like they were going through like a nice little timeline of that, which I thought was interesting. And
they had various award dresses alongside the actual dresses, alongside the picture of the person wearing them.
Oh yes.
Which was done really coolly. And then you walked into the Sentai building.
Yes.
They had.
It's on the second floor.
It's on the second floor. They had the costume for every Red Ranger.
From every single Power Ranger.
Including the belts, everything.
And then they also had all the Kamen Rider outfits as well. And so they had all the armor pieces. Not necessarily the belts, because the belts are super elaborate hero belts. They probably had like the stunt belts, I would imagine. But they had like all the... And again, they're like all lit up with all the lights and everything that are in their eyes too, because all their every eyes just was like glow at the end of the day.
Okay.
But no, yeah, they had all of them there, and you're just walking through, and you're just like, well, damn.
It was pretty cool.
Damn. Look at all of these look at all the Rangers, and look at all the, and they had all of them there too, which was kind of impressive.
Well, I hadn't realized how many Power Rangers. I mean, there must have been like 40 Power Ranger costumes.
So they had their 40th anniversary like 5 years ago. So it's probably about 45.
Okay.
45, maybe close to 50 now, sort of in there.
It was pretty cool to see, and especially since you guys. I can remember one Christmas, your father going around different stores trying to get you the White Tiger Zord from Toys R Us. So for me it was kind of fun because it was your childhood.
Oh yeah, no, that was very much my childhood, and some of my college years as well, because I fell in love with Kamen Rider as in college.
Yeah,
so that was very cool, and again, nothing didn't end without a shopping experience.
Yeah, this is true. Although I was disappointed in that particular gift shop, because had they had anything cool Power Rangers, I probably would have bought it.
Well, they didn't have they had it from a lot of other series, I think, because we kept
Yeah.
looking for the green. Well, we consider the Green Ranger here in America like the first generation Green
Yeah.
Ranger, and then we didn't see that ever,
Yeah.
which is not unsurprising. I mean, like, saw a couple Henshin belts, which I was very tempted to buy, but then I also remember it's like I don't know anything about Kamen Rider 01 right now, and I didn't
Yeah.
really even give two damns about the Kamen Rider Zeo before that, so I don't really need their belts at all. I like the belts. I love
Yeah.
Rider belts. They're very cool. In Akihabara, they had some really, really amazing Rider belts there that was like, yeah, but I don't really need to spend $200 or $300 on one.
Yeah.
I'm okay
Yeah.
with not spending that money.
So the next thing we did in the studio was kind of a surprise.
Yeah, so we saw like a ninja show, I guess it was kind of framed as. That was really
Yeah.
cool, despite not speaking not understanding a single word
Well,
being
we
said.
started out that morning, when we first got to the studio, we started out watching,
This woman with these sticks,
yeah,
which was cool.
that was fun.
Yeah, and then we saw the ninja show. And then we did a samurai.
To Samurai Adventure.
Well,
So,
yeah, and that was really cool as well. And like,
yes, you got to play with a sword. They
Mhm.
taught you how. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, like I'd see them do all the moves, but now it was making a lot more sense. Like clearly, footwork makes a big deal,
Yeah.
and the way they handle the sword is very distinctive. But we should also kind of maybe rewind because we went to the Samurai and Ninja experience the night before,
Yeah.
and that was a hoot. So we learned a lot about the samurai and
It was billed as a samurai museum, but as it turned out when we showed up,
Mhm.
it wasn't so much a museum, although it did have some museum quality
pieces in it.
it.
Lots of cool swords.
And they gave you a lot of history. So, but we started out we did this. We signed up for the samurai experience,
Mm-hmm.
and we got about half hour, 45 minutes of samurai history.
I'd say about 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, talking about feudal Japan and
Which
how
is very
samurais
interesting
came
because
to
it makes a
pass.
lot of sense actually when you
It
listen
does.
to it.
It does. So that was interesting. And
Mm.
then describe what happened next.
Then we went through like ninja training.
Yeah.
We went through ninja stars and
We learned how to throw ninja stars against a board.
these were rubber ones, but they stuck really
They
well.
stuck, yeah.
And then we got to the blow darts.
Yes, so we learned how to blow. We learned how to use blow darts.
Mm-hmm.
That was a trip.
Some people were really good at that.
Yeah, some people were really good at that. Not me, but yeah.
Yeah, and then we got to watch the English guy or the Australian guy, I'm pretty sure he was,
Yeah.
who was kind of it was helping us because a lot of us were
All of us
were
were
like American or British of some nature.
Yeah.
So that he was super nice, and then he was like, and then there was another guy who was apparently like a sensei, and him and the English guy were like fighting at one point with swords.
They did a fight
not real
demonstration.
swords. It was
yeah.
very cool.
Real swords, but they weren't really fighting.
Well, they weren't real swords.
Oh, those weren't real swords?
No, they were kind of like a wooden bokken, is what they're called.
Oh, okay.
But like if they were like a metal sword, they'd hear more clashing sort of noises.
Okay.
But this was very much like actual moves you would use,
Yeah.
which was really cool. But then back to the Toei Studio Park again, like they were.
Well, wait, no, you forgot the most important thing.
Oh, yeah.
We got to put on samurai clothing.
How heavy was that helmet?
That helmet was so heavy. We got to put on the helmets,
And we took pictures.
and we learned interesting facts. So, most of the samurai facial helmet gear
Mhm.
comes with something that covers your nose and your mouth and your chin,
Mm-hmm.
with just a breathing hole in it, and all
Yep.
that you would really see are somebody's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And we were told that was done to sort of even the playing field by disguising whether somebody was old or young,
Well, I think it had
and keep them from making targets out of
the older people or the younger people. So everyone kind of had you didn't know who you were fighting at the end of the day, so it was kind of a fair
yeah, so almost
fight.
like a disguise.
He also kind of explained it as like, well, it also was useful to make sure that you didn't show how scared and shitless you were going into that fight.
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
But no, the Toei Studio Park was just amazing. Like, it was just, it really did make you want to appreciate Japanese media a lot more. And I've seen a lot of Japanese movies and media to be able to appreciate it to some extent, but just walking through it was just amazing at the end of the day. It really was.
Well, and to sort of talk about that experience a little bit more, they had the various sound stages. There were 14 or 15 sound stages.
I think 15, I want to say, yeah.
And they told us that there were actually 14 shows actively being shot there, some of them game shows, actually being shot in the studios currently.
Yeah. So
that was really interesting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then that day ended with laundry.
Well, I mean, we did have dinner. But
we did have dinner, yeah.
We did have dinner.
But we went and did laundry.
And
we thought it would be a lot longer for laundry, but it really wasn't.
So this is where knock the ryokan all you want. It was not the nicest of the ryokans. The shower was
itsy bitsy teeny weeny.
The one in Tokyo
hot.
Was smaller.
Oh yeah.
But only occasionally hot. And so it was not the most well fitted ryokan, but it was so convenient
because it was right by a 7-Eleven, just right around the corner. But it also had a
laundromat across the street,
and it was very easy to get to. It maybe took us 5 minutes walk, if that.
Not even. So we went over
if the lights were really, really long.
Yeah. So we went over with enough laundry, sort of a light load and a dark load.
Yeah, because we had been there at this point now. We're here for about 6 days, and I had brought 6 T-shirts with me, and I was running out of shirts.
Yeah.
And
ditto.
Yeah, and so we don't have to buy any. So we put our stuff in there. It already comes with softener and detergent already in there.
So automatically injected. And I think we were both sort of going, well, geez, it's $9 a load, or was it?
It was $9 for 4 kilos.
For 4 kilos. And
we were both thinking here, oh, wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
And we still have to go to dry it. Oh, God, how long will it take to dry this? 40 minutes later, we go to take our stuff out, and mind you, we've met another person in there who we're talking to as well. She came from Austin.
Yeah, from Austin, Texas.
And so, we're talking to her, but there's also the guy there cleaning as well, who I guess is the landlord
owner,
of the place.
Yeah.
And we go to take our stuff out, and we're oh, well, let me grab the basket here so I can move my stuff to the dryer. And then he looks at us no dryer necessary. And we don't understand right away, except when we open it up, and we're holy shit, this stuff is damp but warm.
Yeah,
very dried.
Yeah, I would call it par dried.
Yeah, it dried in the washing machine.
Yeah, so it was an all-in-one, and as part of the cycle, it included a dryer right after the ring, which we hadn't realized. Actually, I had things I wouldn't normally put through the dryer, but everything survived. And the things were 90% dry.
Yeah, a little damp, and even as we still.
And it was still 90 degrees out, so
the fact that it was still slightly damp was actually kind of a benefit.
Yeah.
But again, that was amazing. We thought we'd be there for an hour, a lot longer, but we were really only in there for maybe 45 minutes at the end of the day, and we even. A slight tangent here. If you go to Japan, get the peach water.
Get the peach water. The peach water was amazing.
Everywhere we went, we found peach water. It was amazing.
Well, it was quite the skip from the washer and dryer to the peach water, but that's because we were in there drinking peach water while we were waiting.
Yeah, because I was under the impression we were going to be there for a lot longer, and we weren't.
Yeah,
so.
And we weren't.
All right, so day 7 was our trip to Nagoya.
Yeah.
Our first trip on the Shinkansen, which we'll describe how you get onto the Shinkansen, because again, none of the videos really explain it really well.
Yeah, and the information we got from Japan Rail with the rail passes didn't really either.
Didn't help you either. So we'll explain how to do that. But your experience, you liked the bullet trains.
I thought the bullet train was awesome.
I love the bullet train.
Yeah.
This is one of the times in which having the green pass was worth it.
Yeah, the green pass cost us an extra $100 for the 14-day pass, but it was worth it because you get assured a seat and you don't have to worry about having a reserved seat.
No, there were reserved seats for that, so that's an issue there. So we got to Nagoya. We were able to drop our luggage off again in the station, which was very convenient.
Yeah. I'd never done that before in my life, actually.
But
Stored luggage, but it worked well.
Oh yeah, it worked very well. And again, I mean, like,
big lockers. They took, like, I had a
roller bag.
Yeah, roller bag. They're 24-inch roller bag.
There's a funny story with that roller bag. We'll tell that next week.
But I had a roller bag, 24-inch, probably 12 inches deep, and it fit right in the locker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So dropped your stuff in the locker, and so we went to the Osakanen Temple. Mm-hmm. Which is a really cool kind of like little. This is like smaller temple shrine, but like it was just very, very nearby the station, very easy access. We went through a couple covered market areas, looked at a couple Daiso shops, which are like basically like dollar stores at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What I will say, if you do go to a dollar store, just buy whatever you think you see in there.
Yeah.
That would be my one tip for dollar stores. Like, if you go in there, just buy whatever you see right away, because
we did end up regretting not having bought some bags.
Because they were like $300. They were like $3 a piece, and we were just like,
we'll see those again.
We'll see those again. Yeah.
And then we did.
We never did.
Yeah.
And then we saw a bunch of like Sumi stuff as well, and we never saw those ever again.
Yeah. So
if you see something in a dollar store, just buy it.
Just buy it.
Yeah. Just you carry it with you. You'll be fine. It's dollar store stuff.
Yeah.
So then we went to the Nagoya Castle. That was cool.
That was a nice castle, and again they provided a translator.
Mm-hmm. Just free, right there.
Right there. So that was really, really nice, and he showed us through everything. I mean, he spent a good hour with us. And
it felt like an hour and a half, but yeah, no,
maybe
it was just, and again free of charge. He was lovely. And mind you, he's just a
volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not paid to do this at all, but like amazing how much knowledge he had, and he had a binder with him as well to kind of like show pictures of stuff, and very informative.
The screens in that the wall screens, those were my favorite set of wall screens. Those were
beautiful area. Yeah.
Stunning room after room, really stunning. And this is where we come into. Sort of in Kyoto and more from Nagoya on, where we were sliding off shoes.
Yeah, we started sliding off our shoes a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, I mean, we did. We started in Kyoto, but Nagoya we did for all the shrines have to slide off shoes. Mm-hmm. But again, good shoes keep your feet comfortable and don't worry about tying laces.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like. Other people were able to get their shoes on and off pretty quickly as well, and if you're able to just get your shoes on pretty quickly, easily, perfectly fine. Yeah. I do regret taking my skater shoes with me because they were easy to get on and off, and they were relatively comfortable, but not meant for a lot of trekking. Yeah,
no, I didn't have enough arch support either. I had the same issue. So. The castle itself is just good looking from the outside.
Well, we couldn't go into it because it was closed at the time.
It was closed, but he told us it's really just wood timbers inside. Mm-hmm. That most of them were built just to be intimidating, and that there really wasn't much in it.
No, besides gun turrets.
Yeah.
Or I also like the little kind of
big one though, big moat, big walls.
Big walls, and mind you, the moats were not filled with water either, and that was intentional. They were dry moats.
They were dry moats
because it was more difficult to get across them.
Yeah.
And then even the front door, as you go through the front door, had a door and then another door with the intention that you get bottlenecked right there, and they just kind of picked you off.
Yeah, his description, this is where something where having an interpreter there was really helpful, because his description of how those work strategically, those little anti-courtyards.
Yeah.
I'd have never gotten that without him.
No, because again, like the second door that would have been there wasn't there at all, so you wouldn't have thought that. Oh, this is a murder alley.
Yeah, yeah. So it was built as an intentional sort of trap to ambush people in, and so I found him really, really helpful.
Oh yeah, no,
it was nice.
And then this was also we also went to a sake tasting.
Yes.
This is one of those times in which we needed a translator.
We needed a translator because he didn't speak any English, and
kept just serving us very strong sake.
But different, slightly different flavors, but we had no explanation as to what made them different.
Yeah, like you would say, this is a bold taste, or this is a sharp taste. Like, that doesn't mean anything to a person that doesn't drink a lot of sake.
Well, but we didn't even get that.
No, we didn't get a whole lot of like explanation. He would just kind of bring a bottle out, show us the bottle, and then like pour as if we were supposed to know what it was.
But it was inexpensive. It was like $15 for an hour of sake tasting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like $25 or something like that.
25? Okay.
It wasn't that expensive at the end of the day. Like if you're really into alcohol and doing shots of stuff, this would be right up your alley.
He was pouring pretty stiff-sized shots, though.
And we had to start asking
we
for
were
a lot
telling him
smaller.
for less. I mean, one of the words, skoshi. It's one of the words we do understand in Japanese.
We kept telling him, like, skoshi.
Yes.
And he would start calling us more shot sizes. He was filling in, like, large, tall, like, shot size beforehand, like doubles.
Yeah, and so what I learned from that was six shots in 45 minutes, my limit.
Yeah, mine too, apparently.
A little tipsy and chatty afterwards.
So what did we do? Then we went to a restaurant that served like Italian pasta, but like with a Japanese twist on it. That was really good. Oh yeah,
that was really good.
All in that same kind of shopping center too.
Yeah, so connected to a large building. So a lot of the large buildings have full amenities underneath where they have some shopping and restaurants on the first, second, third floor.
Well, no, not even that. It was like basement 1, basement 2, and then ground floor, and then second floor even.
Okay, and then everything further up was office.
One of the greatest like 3-star Michelin sushi restaurants is in a train station on the 3rd basement floor that's tucked away in the corner.
Oh wow!
It's a world-renowned sushi place that you have to make reservations. You can't just walk in.
Yeah.
You have to make reservations. You can have to make reservations for like 7-8 people, and that's it.
So do we want to do Tokyo and Fuji as a separate one? Because we are already long here.
We are already at least an hour and 30 minutes, so we can come back next week and do that one.
I think we come back and do it so that we don't speed through stuff because Tokyo was fascinating.
Oh, Tokyo's got a lot of stuff, and I think we can get through some of our tips through next week too.
Yeah.
All right, so that was us here for the first leg of our first 7 days of our trip here in Japan. We're going to post a lot of pictures online on the website here when we post this here, and so you can kind of see a lot of what we were talking about. We took a lot of pictures while we were there anyway.
And video.
And videos too, yeah. So you can check all that out on the nerdtutorialpodcast.com. We'll sub of this as well on our Facebook page as well, nerdtutorialpodcast.com, or facebook.com/nerdtutorialpodcast. And then on Twitter, follow me at nerd_tutorial to tell me other things you want to know about Japan or things we saw in Japan. And if you have any questions about some of the things we learned about when we were in Japan. But for this week here, I think that'll be us. And on behalf of myself and my mom, we're going to finish up Japan next week. So we'll see you guys again there.
Sayonara.
Sayonara.